Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Spiritual Journey TV. With our host
Mary Silvernail.
and the other host, me, Thomas Knights Templar, and our guest.
Yes.
Yes, Joseph Ralph Fraia.
Okay, and our other guest.
Rob Armbrust.
Okay.
Thank you for
Very happy to
coming,
be here.
guys.
Tell them about
thank
our
you for having
topic
me.
tonight.
Yeah, our topic tonight is empathetic guidance. And these two gentlemen are experts at that, right? Yeah.
We try.
Yes.
We try.
You're experts at that.
Okay.
But it's a lot about being an empath,
And being an empath.
as we all are here.
Okay. All right, so let's, we'll start with you, Joseph.
Yes.
When did you first know you were empathic?
Well, I found that already when I was a teenager.
Teenager,
right?
okay.
That I saw that there was this ability to be receptive to events, people, and I was a little bit confused because I wasn't seeing around me the same attitude by other people. So at the beginning, I was a little bit confused. I didn't know if I was just being emotional, right, or just because I was being a teenager. But the idea was always for me the instinct, meeting somebody,
Right.
or being in nature, like being drawn naturally to places that I felt there was something. Again, you don't have the language to
No, I
express
know.
it at that time.
I was too young
but,
at that time.
But you feel there is an interaction,
I
right?
mean, when you're around people that you don't know or stuff like that, or people you just meet, you can you feel that barrier, that bump in the road. So this is good, that's not good.
Yeah, and so you rely at that age to what your parents tell you. You know, that they find you talking with older people, having deep conversations, right?
Yes.
Or they find you on a rock next to a river, contemplating, maybe talking to animals or contemplating the nature. And so then later on, you start putting things together, right? Then you learn, you get educated, and you start having words
Yes.
that you can use to
Well,
describe
the
what
words will come
you
to you,
experience.
yeah.
Yes. And that
That's
was
how
my
it
very
happened
first
to you.
experience. Yes.
I'll pose that same question to you, Rob.
Wow. Yes, Rob.
How did it start for you?
Okay. Well, actually, I had this kind of mystical experience back in 2019.
Okay, so
And
fairly
right-
recent.
Yes. And right after that, a bunch of synchronicities and things started to happen.
Yeah.
And I ran into this person almost by accident. And we had an interesting conversation. And he said to me, "Oh, by the way, you're an empath."
Okay.
And I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "The reason I know it is I'm an empath." And of course, I had heard the term empathy before.
Yeah, yeah.
I knew what that was, but I never heard it put in those terms. And I look back at my life experience and I thought, well, this really makes sense because I became a psychologist. And a lot
That's
of
what I was
empaths-
going to ask you next.
A lot of empaths are helping profession people
That's right.
that are involved in nursing, psychology,
Yes.
and stuff like the healers.
Healers, hypnotists.
They're either empaths or that would say they have a very strong empathic tendencies.
Yes.
Because they're attracted to those kinds of jobs.
But which is also good
Yes.
for that profession because of the fact that then you can actually feel what the person is feeling
Right,
and
that's true.
understand it better
Right.
than just using your intelligence.
Right,
You
exactly.
can actually feel
It's not a
it.
cold read, because
Yeah.
you're already picking up what the person's energy is, and perhaps if they're going through any turmoil, you can feel flutters in the energy that comes through them.
So,
You get that too, huh?
Well, yeah, it's like then something that happened later on in my life when I started traveling, always being passionate about traveling. Again, I spent 16 years in Europe that allowed me to see North Africa, Middle East, Eastern Europe, and to me, it always came natural to just interact with people, and that's what I normally say. It's like wherever I've been in the world, people have opened the doors of their homes. Like, despite the language barrier, despite the cultural differences, I always found people opening the door to their home and saying, explaining, with gesture, come in, let's talk, right? And I had tea in Egypt with this man who was telling me about what it really means to have 4 wives. I guess to deal
that's
with
a
it.
whole nother
So I guess he needed a little support.
There you go, on a quarterly basis. Boy, you
Exactly.
screwed.
And or again, I was in San Francisco, and there was this woman from Jamaica. Who was selling T-shirts, and then she invited me home with her nephew, and we started talking about the indigenous culture and what the meaning of understanding the signs. Again, never seen this woman in my life, never met again, but like we spent 6 hours together about talking, trying to understand the signs and the difference, what it really means, why there is something like that in common between Jamaica and southern Italy, right? Like you find that there are old women practicing similar ritual, and it can't be a coincidence.
No,
it's like
no,
because
No
it's
coincidence.
easier.
No.
Occam
Two different
razor,
sides
it's
of the
easier
world.
that
Yeah,
it's not
remember,
it's not a
Jamaica-
coincidence at that point,
look at the
rather
history.
than thinking it's a coincidence.
Look at the history
Yeah.
of Jamaica.
Yeah,
Spanish.
exactly.
you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Now,
Yeah.
Rob.
okay, I couldn't get it out for some reason.
Here we go.
Did you have 4 wives?
His wife is in the back. No.
He's got 4 and you don't even
Time
know.
to share that information.
But as George would say, infinite possibilities are good.
No, I couldn't afford the alimony.
That was good. That was good. That was good. So, but you had some really tremendous experiences with this when your world opened up.
Right, after that kind of mystical experience I had. Yes. I got this message, and I should say it was kind of like the perfect storm because I had just been on a diet, and it was the first time in my life I took a cleanse to get rid of the toxins in my system.
Oh,
That clear you out.
Yeah.
Sharpens your mental processes.
yes, it does.
I just had lost.
What was that, Fabuloso? Jeez, what a crowd. Gee.
I just went through a grief experience. I lost my dog.
Oh,
Have you ever lost a pet?
Yeah, I know.
Family
I know.
member.
My friend's going through it right now.
So I had
We know.
an emotional release, which I think opened up my heart chakra. And then the third thing, and this is after talking to you, it was the day I had it, was the Lionsgate portal.
Oh, yes.
All right.
Yes.
All
yes.
those things
we,
happened at once.
We talked about that.
We do, certainly did.
It happened.
We've
No.
spoken of many times.
And
No,
so that raised my
Rob and I.
frequency, and I had a jump.
But once the door is open and the path
Yeah.
is open, all these things happen.
Yeah.
Synchronistic.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as coincidence. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, that's just a coincidence."
No,
It
there
is
no-
not.
yeah.
It is not.
If it is, and we can't explain it, we just haven't figured it out yet.
That's it.
Yeah. And so after that happens, your identity, there's an actual shift pretty quickly. You're in the new frequency.
Yeah.
And then that lasted about 3 weeks.
See, what I was curious about, because I know both you do psychologists, or something, right? So both of you have the same background in that.
Right.
In
Now,
psychology, right?
When you, before all the spiritual stuff started coming out, the empathic stuff, when you were sitting with, say, a client, now we can't go into it because of HIPAA, I don't understand that. But when you were sitting with a client, were you able to, by your psychology knowledge or by your psychic empathic feel for the person?
Okay. Being in the schools, I used to be in a lot of meetings. There'd be like 8 different people, specialists around, trying to come up with a plan about this particular kid that's having problems.
Yeah.
And I was a very good negotiator, I mean, without sounding like
Okay.
I'm bragging or something, because I could pick up on the stuff that wasn't said.
That wasn't said, yeah.
Exactly.
Because you can feel
And so it helped me, put together a lot of plans, and I felt like I helped a lot of people over the years.
And it's coming from the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you could feel it
Yeah, yeah.
I feel it.
and sense it. And, but once that window opens, you can never close it. You can never go back.
No.
There is,
Never
I
go
think,
back.
Absolutely
like a
not.
reintegration, though, into your personality.
Yeah.
Once you're like into
It
that.
becomes a part of you,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you
That
have
took
now
about
and
3
you didn't know
weeks.
you had then.
Mhm.
You know?
But you don't come back down, you adjust
No,
that
you just
new
keep
level.
you elevate. You
Right.
elevate. You move towards your ranking, your ascension. You're moving that way. You had the same thing doing.
Well, it's
Did
interesting.
you work in that field?
Well, it's interesting that Rob mentioned that because my background is in law. Like I was a lawyer for many years, and I was an excellent negotiator too. It's because it's just like the way you see kind of like the invisible strings, around a group of people.
Yeah.
And you can really pick like the strength and the weaknesses, and then manage that in a way
Well,
for
being
an
a
effective
lawyer,
outcome.
you
Yeah.
understand how to dissect the person.
Yeah, but,
know,
but then when it comes
personality.
to, it's more, as you said, it's more the like empathic side, or it's the psychology one. I can't really distinguish the two, because for me, it's always been like this input that I received that was an output, from another person. And actually, for me, the process has always been to kind of to combine, right? And that's what with integrative therapy I try to do. It's again these two different approaches. That it's the Far Eastern disciplines on one hand, and the traditional Western psychology and psychotherapy, to really again have like a tool bag, right? That
You got
that you
the-
can
you-
use,
you-
and you
you-
can also customize, because again, it's like each individual person is a uniqueness, and I think you have to first figure out what kind of uniqueness is that, and then you can build on that. So for me, the process has always been like
You think part of the fact that you were Taoist, what is it, Tao Te Ching? Right?
yes.
That was that the opening of the thing, or
Yes,
was it?
definitely. For me, was the again. Normally, people start being a Taoist, and then they go to the Tao Te Ching, which is basically the divination based on the Tao Te Ching.
Good book. I read it a few times.
For me, it was the opposite. Like I was fascinated by the divination aspect, because again, I'm interested in these ancient rituals, and then as I was doing the I Ching readings, I discovered better Taoism, and I saw that was basically the language of my life. I said, oh, this is what always has been my life about. This is how I see life, my morals, and so it was a very strange path, but nevertheless helped me to eventually realize, because again, I always said this spiritual charge, this empathy, this curiosity, but I could never put it in a stream, and finally when I did,
came
it's
together
been
for you.
one of the best
Yeah.
experiences in my life.
Well, Wayne Dyer,
Wayne
excuse me, I'm
Dyer, yeah.
sorry. Wayne Dyer was a Taoist.
Taoist, yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
I'm
go
sorry. I
ahead.
don't
No,
wanna
you
get-
go ahead.
On the same token, with the same question, did you have a religious experience prior to this? Or did something bring you to it other than the guy telling you that you're empathic? I mean, anything prior to that?
Well, I had a few experiences now and again, like if I
Now
go
you
back-
can explain them.
Yeah, well, yes, exactly. I did have a spontaneous out-of-body experience about.
That's
30
always
years
fun,
ago.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I was going 1,000 miles an hour straight up in the air with a silver cord around my. I said, oh, no, right back.
It didn't last long, maybe 10 minutes, but just that experience of, looking at your physical body, which, not in a mirror. It's,
You know what I was saying? You know what I was saying when I saw my physical body?
Yeah,
Boy, doesn't he look good? What a good-looking guy.
And
No, Mary said that. I'm sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and I always had an interest in things like UFOs, remote viewing, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I read a lot of things.
Well, I was watching the guys that were doing they had a project. I forgot the name of the program, but this was during not the Cold, maybe it was the Cold War, the Vietnam War, definitely, where they were remote viewing. They had a group. They called them something. I forgot the name of the group, but they were actually pinpointing prison camps, this, that, the other, with complete accuracy.
Right. The Stargate program.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was it.
The military ran
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they
That's
trained
real.
down at the Monroe Institute in
Yeah.
Virginia.
Yeah, see? That's right. Yeah, remote viewing is real.
Yeah, yeah. It
It's
kind
real.
of caught fire as, I would say, early 2000s, where it was coming to the forefront.
Originally, the Russians perfected that. And we got somebody defected and we picked up on it.
How about
We
that?
started our own program, yeah.
How about that? Somebody had a defect. Love that guy. Anyway, anyhow, I was going to ask you. Yeah, a question?
Well, I mean, what we're talking about here is truly the enhancement for any type of a healer or psychologist or hypnotherapist
hypnotherapist.
or, anyone in
Put
the
up your
healing field, a massage therapist even, okay, a doctor, to have an understanding of, the mystical side of things. Because if they do and they open up to that, they can do so much more,
I was reading a thing about in India. They have their prisons there and stuff like that, and they make it there. They tried something new, and they would do meditations every single day, every prisoner, every single day, meditations for like 2 hours. Okay, and they found that all the violence that was going on in their jail stopped, and when they did get out, they didn't return. All right, could you imagine doing that here?
Yeah.
I think that would be a great thing.
absolutely.
A great thing to try to get these people to stop being so darn violent, and to conform a little bit, and maybe make a life out of yourself in this environment that they're growing up in.
The Dalai Lama said a while back
Yeah, he did.
that unless everybody in the world starts meditating at
Yeah.
least a little, we'll never have peace. That was his statement.
It's incredible that Marion, she knows the conversation we had here, but it's the simplistic thing. If you come back to the main ingredient, which is love, okay? Nobody can believe that all the problems in this world would be solved if people would just lay down their egos and their pride and their governments to tell them what to do and how to say it, okay? We just lay it down and just love one another and respect one another and go about life. And every country share with each other everything. You would double, triple, quadruple all the wealth and all the goodness in this world. They won't do it because it's too simple to do it. And it's exactly the opposite of those that run the whole world. It's only a handful of people.
When you talk about empathy, though, what you're talking about is love,
That's
because if you don't have empathy, how do you love? I know myself when I connect with a person, I'm connecting heart to heart
Heart to heart.
and solar plexus to solar plexus. This is how I connect. So I mean that's why. That's why you can connect so well, but that's why you guys connect so well and can help so many people, right?
Absolutely.
You too, because that's what you do. But you have to be able to connect.
I tell you, so many times
You know-
I go to places and somebody starts talking to me, and right away I know that I'm not there for the reason
Yeah.
I was called.
Absolutely, that happens to you all
And-
the time, right?
Then there was one time I felt so bad. I just mentioned one thing, and the person burst out into tears.
Yeah,
I was like, oh
Yeah.
boy.
You touched on that.
I said, and then
you
when
guys have experienced
well,
it,
yes,
right?
when you have been impinged upon, okay.
You need to stop using Judy's word.
Listen, I saw that word on a video.
You did
I
not.
did
That's
so.
Judy's word, and they copied her. Okay, that's my sister.
They copied
was
it. The
in
word
heaven.
was out since the beginning of time.
It's her word.
Anyway, it's her word.
I never
Judy
should have
word.
told you.
That's okay.
You do
You know
this
what
to me
I'm
every
hear-
show now.
You know what I'm hearing?
Use it.
You know what I'm hearing in my head?
What? Oh, the Jetsons?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We kind of got off,
No, but I like what that Mary. You always have this way to rightfully ground the conversation that we have with practical use.
Yes.
Because it is true that a huge problem is this academic rigidity, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because again, of course, before you break the rules, right, you need to learn them, right? So, and sometimes the system indulges too much either on one aspect or the other. You do need to know the rule, you need to know the system, right? But then you gotta have that openness, that once you have the system of rules and the set knowledge, to have that push to go beyond.
Beyond.
Right? Because
Excellent
that
point.
can make you a better, as you said, a better doctor, a better dentist, a better psychologist, a better teacher.
That's right.
There are so many applications that really just to have that calm, open mind.
It's true.
That first you have to, put in the work, right? Because again, otherwise it becomes a shortcut. It's like, oh, I don't need to know the rules because I feel them.
No,
It's like,
no,
that's a little
no.
bit too easy, It's
No.
like, no, you got to know the system, the rules, the laws, and stay open, and that really can make you a better anything you are.
So
A
then you have the
professional,
whole
a father,
package.
a mother, a teacher, again,
package.
anything. Yeah.
I have to tell you too, and let's really think about this. Most people nowadays, what they complain about is a lack of empathy in their physicians.
Yeah.
A lot of people do. Not every physician. I mean, but what exactly the point that you're making there,
Yeah.
and that is the truth. But you have to have the background to be able. You can't just go to a reader and expect miracles
it's
to
too
happen.
much.
Listen, I think that we have all experienced the real, actual power of a good word to somebody at the right moment.
Oh my
Which
goodness,
is like,
yes, right?
oh, not a big deal. Huh,
Yeah.
It's kind of a big
Big
deal.
deal.
It is a big
It's
deal.
kind of a big deal.
Speaking of
because
when-
as you said, that then you have people like breaking in tears just because they never heard that word
I never heard it before.
right?
it
And they
opens-
find out that that's all they needed. That's all they needed was that word that really works like a key. It's not an exaggeration.
It was like a
It's
catalyst.
an energy
yeah.
that it gets unlocked.
It was a catalyst to turn her life
Catalyst.
around.
Correct. I'm amazed every time.
Yeah.
Every time. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially the way that you're brought to use specific words with a person, even if that you just bump into them in the grocery
right.
store or something like that. You know what I mean? And you could really make their day just by saying, oh, that's a beautiful blouse or something like that.
If you,
know?
I find this a lot of times. If I'm talking to
don't
somebody
know
on
what-
Facebook or I'm saying good morning, I say good morning to a lot of people. Okay, that is as much for me as it is for them. You know what I mean? This way they know I'm still alive. Number one, I said, but number two, it sets the course.
Yeah.
Boy, that sounded terrible.
Terrible.
Number two.
Yeah, man, I'm going, yeah.
Number dos, okay? All right? When that happens, it's like you set the tone for their day. And for some reason, like I know when I'm in the morning, I set the tone for my day. I want it to go like this, go like this. Like I set what I want to do. Let me put those in front of me that need my help. And he does, and I go about my day doing it like that. And so I programmed my day. If I don't do it, then chaos could consume,
Yeah.
ensue, and that's what I try to do. But by the same token, like we were talking about intelligentsia, it's gone too far today. It's like if you don't have this, you don't have that. Let me tell you something. I don't care if you were trained to be the best doctor in the world. If you are suited to have hands that could be a shoemaker, that's what you should do. Okay, and not be a doctor.
That's right.
Okay,
Even
if you
if your
can't take it
parents
from
want
here
you
and put it here, shouldn't be doing that. And there's a lot of people of intelligentsia that they look down your nose because maybe you just had a high school but there's a whole lot of stupid going on because they have no common sense. They see wrong happening in front of them and, oh, it's peaceful. Yeah, okay. So it's all coming from intelligentsia. They're talking down to us like we're a bunch of dumb, what. All right, and that really needs to stop.
Well, I have to, only because we're talking about the medical here, so I have to say this. My friend Stephen, very famous astrologer, and he's in heaven now, but he used to always say to me, if only medical doctors understood astrology, they could be even so much more of a help. Of course, you have to have all the medical schooling and training and all of that, and the empathy. But if they understood astrology, they could help people so much. I'm really serious.
Look at Reagan,
I mean,
Reagan's
of
wife.
any of the arts,
Yes, absolutely.
Look at
Yeah,
Reagan's
look at
wife.
Dallas.
She didn't make a move unless they did something in astrology.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Well, that saved his life. That he, when he got
Well,
shot.
when he got shot, yeah.
because it was ahead of time that he was told by Gene Dixon.
Dean Dixon.
Yeah.
That was she made one famous prediction, and she became the one.
Yeah, but It is correct. Astrology
It
is
was. It
correct.
was.
But so, Rob, tell us more about, because Tommy was asking you before, what if something had happened before this, and you had said the loss of your dog.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Right.
So I had this
That was the
emotional
trigger.
release, and I think it opened up the heart chakra and allowed.
It's traumatic.
because,
Any traumatic thing could do
you know,
stuff like that.
I got into a lot of this spiritual stuff. I probably read like about 200 books after this, because after you have an experience like
Yep.
this, it motivates you to
Oh,
become inspired and continue,
Like,
and it
yeah.
just has never stopped.
I got a buddy of mine.
Yeah.
He's going through the same thing with the dog.
Yeah.
He's just. I spoke to him today. He went to the vet,
Mm-hmm.
and him and the vet sat in a room and they were talking about the dog, and he was crying, and they were both crying
Yeah,
because the doctor couldn't do anything more for them.
Yeah.
You know.
been there.
And there's an energy exchange there with the pets, just like
What
there is with
his
people.
whole thing when that happened to me,
Mm-hmm.
what my dog in a 52-day period, I lost my brother, the dog, and my best friend. Okay, all tragically, and that my wife thought I was going to go off the deep end. All right, and I could tell you, there was a woman, and her name is Brent Atwater. She's not only a pet psychic, but she also, people. And she is really brilliant. And she put me onto a group within her thing there, and they helped me get through it. And the way they did that is that they had said to, I always keep something of the dogs with me in the car, always, all right? And she said, act as if the pet is with you at all times. Now, Jack, at the time, he wasn't able to come with me to work because I couldn't leave him in the car, in the heat and stuff. So I would, make like he's there now. I'm making like I'm petting him. I'm doing everything they told me to do, And I'm driving into Brooklyn, and there's a flatbed tractor trailer in front of me, and there's only a little space on the back. Here's the bed, and here's that little metal rod that goes across. Right dead center, and to make sure the traffic stopped, there's a sticker. You know what it said? I love my Jack Russell. Okay, to me, that was it. I knew Jack was with me.
Confirmation.
I'm laying down in bed. He used to like to
Yeah.
come up only on Sundays. It was allowed. Came up in the bed, and he would tuck behind my back. And every now and then I go, it's just to make sure, I don't want it to be something else. But they connect to us. I know how catastrophic that could be.
Well, I had a similar experience to you, because in a 6-month period that year too, I lost my mother, my first wife, and the dog in 6 months. And so that was a lot.
So it's a lot of, you don't realize how much burden that is upon you, It really touches you and makes you even start to think of your own mortality. I mean, there's been times I'm sure you had the same thing. You started to think of your own mortality. People around you, they're younger than you, and they're dropping like flies.
Yeah.
So.
Do you have anything to say regarding mortality? Any?
Well, it's a constant journey, right? Where you go from never thinking about it. You have this first glimpse, glimpse, right? You have this first glimpse now and there, and then again. For me, the first confrontation was when I was 18. One of them, my best friends died in a motorcycle accident.
Oh boy.
And
a few.
that was the really traumatic experience that put me in front of the fact, right? It's irreversible. The grief, the first time I experienced grief, because I did lose, before, like my grandmother, my grandfather. I was little, I was more like relating to, my parents when they lost them, but I really didn't understand. That was the first time instead that was, again,
Front and
there
center
was
for
this
you.
place in my heart that was, occupied by the relationship with this guy. And then when he, overnight, that was gone. And then you have that case now that is empty, and you don't understand it.
No.
It's like, and it's a pain. It's the first time you experience that pain. You don't understand it. You don't know how to deal with it. You don't know what to say. you start blaming yourself. The whole
If I only
journey
would've did
of-
this, yeah.
exactly. You know, it's like I could have called. I could have been there.
I had that. I had a friend commit suicide.
You start thinking, about the chains of events that caused that. And so that was the very first confrontation with the idea, and then again it's the question of the lifetime, right? But the point is that the more you learn, right? And then again, me personally was some experiences with psychedelic, right? That made me
Ayahuasca?
No, mushrooms. Simple mushrooms.
A little porcini with something else in it.
See?
And so in that sense, that was my very first experience with that. It changed everything. Like I regressed to the moment of my conception. So I saw the sparkle, right? I saw the sparkle,
particle.
which then only a few years ago, like they show that there is actually
A particle.
when a sparkle when the sperm eats the egg, there is actually a sparkle. So I didn't know that at the time.
Probably
What I saw was
surprised
this sparkle, and again, like I knew it was me. It's like again, it's weird. It's like, and
It's not
then
weird.
again, I remember like I was in this like pitch black environment. Nevertheless, there was
Yeah.
this the closest thing is kind of like a long shaped bug, but can you believe that when I saw that, it came out, my voice said mother. I say that loud, which it's the least relatable thing you can think, like a long like a centipede shape, but the energy I was receiving was of a mother, right? And so this whole thing said, okay, so okay, so the physical body, the spiritual entity you are, and that was when I wasn't afraid anymore to admit to myself that there is this cosmos that we know very little, but if we never wonder and we never question,
Then you'll never
then
know.
we'll never find it. And that was for me really kind of like we were talking before, like
If I were-
slap in my face by life saying, so you kind of like have to restart this whole understanding. And since then, for me, it gave me peace. It gave me peace because, of course, it's like, and I think this is the beauty of life, is this love that we have for our physical life. It's okay.
You can't love
it's
yourself.
justified. It's like, but also, it's not the whole picture.
No.
And I live with that kind of like a calm now that I saw already kind of
Yes.
how it is.
Yes.
And I know it doesn't end. It's impossible to say exactly, for me at least, what it is. But I know that I saw kind of like the beginning and I saw the end.
All right.
And now I'm curious about what it's
I tell you, Joe, if I would have told my mother, say, Ma, I had a dream about you last night, and you were a big black centipede, and the next thing I would have seen was the inside of my eyeballs, because it would have been a crack in a minute. What are you calling me a bug? Anyway, a friend of mine, he has a saying he says all the time, and it's really true. If you really want to make God laugh, tell him what you're doing tomorrow. Tell him what you're doing tomorrow.
Wow.
That's pretty deep, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't want to tempt the hand of fate.
No.
What about
I
you,
like to look at it
Rob?
positive.
Well, I hadn't have an experience like Joseph did, but I had past life regression by a certain person, and
Did I point to you?
so I had no trouble, going pretty deep into the trance state and experience one of the previous lives. But I would say, I did a lot of research too into near-death experiences, not only reading about them,
Right.
but talking to some people that actually had them. I would say with that and the past life regressions, and there's been some therapists that have done thousands of them, that it's pretty indisputable that this is like
Yeah.
a
Absolutely.
I was listening to
a
something like
repeating
that.
school or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
that we're all going through.
There was a good book that I had read, and I also listened to it quite a few times, from Brian Weiss, Many Lives, Many Masters.
Yes.
And he tells the story of this one patient, all right, and everything she went through and how much information it was collecting. And by the same token, Dolores Cannon, right? Dolores Cannon is awesome. This is she. You know what? It's like sitting in a living room with your grandmother, and she talks so simplistic, and she's funny too. She says these things, and you just stand there and say, "Wow, she's just a great,
A great teacher.
teacher." Yeah, because she teaches it. It's not talking with them like $500 words. She's talking with 50-cent words that everybody can understand. And the way she delivers it, and like she was telling a story about when her and her husband were, newly married and stuff like that. He was in the Navy. He was a Korean Navy guy, and she was on the base with him, and they had learned hypnosis together. And they would just do things for people on the base. And he was driving home one night. He was an officer. He was driving home one night, and he gets hit head on. He's in a VW marker bus. There's no protection. He was infused into the bus. Into the metal was all. They didn't expect him. They were telling him to go home and make plans and things like that. But she had seen from one of the regressions they did that she was going to be there, and he's going to be there. Now, he was resigned to a wheelchair after that until the end of his life. But she kept on telling the doctor, telling him he's going to die. And she said, no, he's not. And he didn't, because it was foreseen. So she is very, 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 very good. She is the pioneer that basically wrote the book for what we all do now. Okay? And I mean, in such things, it was trial and error, but she wanted to always know more when the other hypnotists of the day wouldn't cross that barrier. They wouldn't go into, what you call that state? I forgot the state. There was a state that she researched that they didn't want to cross that barrier into the next state. Maybe it was Dara. Something like that. No, it's a very high state. And she was like a pioneer, and she basically wrote the book on how to do this. And now everybody does all the what's that stuff? The NPL or what?
NLP.
NLP and right.
Neuro-linguistic programming.
And that's just part of it. Like she does what the artist lady was doing. I forgot what they call that.
QHH.
She does that same kind of thing.
Quantum.
The quantum physics. So, and like I said, I've been really pioneering with the quantum jumping. And you learn about it. You find it be very interesting. Like before in our conversation with another hypnotist, Joseph Casaza, he was saying that everything's consecutive. Everything's unlimited, infinite possibilities, and all the lives that you imagine and all the things that you saw yourself with, whether you're here, you lived in California, you lived over here, you lived there, you were married with 12 kids here, 5 kids there, never married before. You have a dog, whatever. These lives are all real, and you were in each and every one of them. Now you can quantum jump and choose it. So that's what I'm finding very interesting about that particular thing.
It's all what you believe to be your
Yes.
reality,
Yes, exactly.
your projection.
Yeah, I agree with you too about Dolores Cannon. She was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
she had very little formal education.
No, I know.
And yet she had people from all over the world coming to be trained. And
She was going all over the world.
yeah.
She traveled everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
I wish I would have known of her
Me too.
while she was still alive.
Me too.
Because I would have loved to have seen it. There was a lot of people who felt that way about other people, but I feel basically like a connection, a kinship.
My wife Pam, who was a hypnotherapist, she met her.
Yeah.
And she said one of the things she regretted, she didn't take a course she had an opportunity to, and it just didn't work out the time she was going to. But she was definitely phenomenal.
I'm sure that they have that course that she has.
Yeah.
Well, her daughter is
Is doing it. Is doing it.
carrying on.
Yeah. It's like there is another one that I follow. He's a real genuine soul. I love him. His name is Rainy Bastarach. All right, and he explains things simplistically. I believe he's a medical doctor too. All right, when you listen to him talk, he's just brilliant, you know. And he has the simplest things. He likes to go fly fishing. He throws that in the middle of the conversation. I mean, he's just a regular guy like us, you know. And Mary's a regular chick. Okay, but look, you got all right. All the blood came to your face. Isn't that nice? Anyway, but before we were talking about Wayne Dyer when you said that. Wayne Dyer is another beautiful soul. I consider him my mentor because following his methods and the way he did things also took me from 0 to 60. So it put me well ahead of the game. And that's how it really all started to snowball.
Just
Always-
listening to him
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people followed him, especially had those PBS specials.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
loved them. I loved them.
I think they still replay him sometimes, even though he's passed on.
What I loved about him is that when he would talk about that, because he's empathic too, when he would talk about things, right, he would express it as, and here's a guy who comes from intelligentsia, PhDs, everything, all right? And he said something that really resonated with me. His professor, on the day he got his PhD and graduated, okay, passed away on that day. And he says it was as if he symbolically was passing the baton to me. And when he said that, you know, I saw it. Because people talk to me, I see what they're saying. You know, and it was really, really like it struck me here. You know, I wish he would have lived longer. I really do, because he was just one of the greats. He would
Yeah.
quote Neville Goddard.
yeah.
I listened to him all the time.
I wanted to ask the guys
Yeah.
if that happens to them too, because you and I, we
Yeah.
deal with that. Somebody can tell us something, and it's always been that way my whole life. I see.
You see
the
it.
whole. That's why I can't stand to hear something really, really
Bad.
awful or negative or harmful, you know, because then I see it and I'm there and I feel it. Does that happen to you guys, either one of you?
You get impressions when you're around somebody telling you a horrible story?
I don't, although I work at setting boundaries, because there is a downside to being an empath. Because
You think so?
you have to work on setting those boundaries. I'm sure you've heard about energy
yeah.
vampires.
Oh yeah.
Energy vampires?
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
coined that fame about 20 years ago because
Yeah.
people were draining me.
You have to
Yeah.
do that, and it's hard. You know, if people who don't do that, oh my goodness, you know.
Well,
I teach
it's
people
part,
to do
it's,
that.
It's part. I think of being disciplined, right? And it's sometimes it's always a combination of finding, or happening to find the right mentors or the people who can again put you on the right path. It's self-preservation, as Rob said. It's like sometimes it comes from the inside, and so of course it's like at the beginning I didn't know exactly how to do it, so it's harder when it happens within your family, because of course that's the first bridge that you have.
Yes.
And so you want to take in everything. It's
Yes,
like, oh
Joe.
yes, I want to do this for mom, for my father, for my brother, and you do it, and with all the good heart and the best intentions, but you are actually harming yourself in that sense, and then you become less effective, because then you get burnout, and you can really help, and then you feel bad because you can't help. It is that quite stressful. And again, unfortunately, it depends if you are lucky in terms of finding somebody that can help you early on. In that sense, you save yourself a lot of time and a lot of energy. For me, it was kind of like half and half. Only later,
Trial and error?
I learned how to create these boundaries. But sometimes when, honestly, when I have this surcharge where I need to be empathic, but I don't want to just put it out in the world. I watched true crime shows, and for me, true crime, I connect with the victim, with the perpetrator, with the families, but it's an intimate experience for me. And sometimes I just go on I don't know if I can say the channel, but it's like it's a channel famous for true crime. I binge
I know the one you're
6
talking about.
hours, and that levels me. It's like I need that thing that to feel the sorrow, to feel that experience, but it's intimate and for me harmless because it's just me and that experience, and that keeps me on track. Otherwise, it becomes too much.
I had a good. Go ahead, Mary.
Oh, I wanted to ask
Yeah.
how you do it.
Okay, let me address what you were asking before in terms, I do subscribe to this group of empaths where we do photo readings. People put them up on Zoom,
Yeah.
and when we take a look. And I never look at what the other psychics say when the person asks. And I don't do a lot of them, just once in a while, never take any money for it or anything. And I'll look at people, like somebody else say, well, I put this up 4 times, nobody ever responded. So that's the person I'm gonna try and go and help,
Yeah.
And most of the time, not all, I'll get like a flash, they'll be asking what's going on here. And I'll interpret the best I can and say, I can see, you've been through a tough time. You need to work on, replenishing your energy and spending some time in nature, meditate. And in some cases, if it's serious enough, I'll say you might want to get some professional help for this
Right.
too.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Yeah.
but that's how it happens with me. It's a very quick flash. It's usually the very first thing that comes through.
First
Yeah.
thing that comes into your mind.
Right.
A lot of people don't, when they start to do
Right.
this, they don't realize that they are receiving what they need to know. But see, it happens to me a lot of times. I'm seeing what they're saying, but they're talking to me, and it's so fast I can't. I have to ask them to slow it down, but they still talk fast. So I got to take whatever little excerpts of what they have said, okay, and then they agree with what I say, and it happens a lot. You
I
know,
mean, to me, it's a skill like anything else.
like right in the middle of the show, it happens. As you can tell you, many times I'm sitting here, all of a sudden, I'll say something that they wanted me to tell you.
Yeah. And the more you do it,
Yeah.
the more you practice it, the better you
Yeah.
get.
Yeah.
In that respect, it's not that different than playing the piano. I do believe, though, too, in terms of what's happening at the cosmic level, that as we arise, the empathy, intuition, and telepathy are all going to be much
the
more
charts.
available to everybody.
Collectively.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's going to go off
It's
the
going to be
charts.
much more common. People are going to all of a sudden discover gifts they didn't even know they had.
And what a beautiful world then,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
You would
Yeah,
think.
because it's a universal language. In that sense, I've always been more, Jungian in this approach, right?
Yes.
Where again, he was a precursor. I think we still have to decode some of the things that he said, and again, his discoveries and intuitions again couldn't come from a place of doctrine and study because it was so omnicomprehensive and right that we're still decoding and trying to understand exactly what he meant.
Was that Casey?
When
Casey?
no, I mean like Jung in terms of like what he said about psychology
Okay.
and psychotherapy, about the collective consciousness,
Yes.
right? Stuff that again at the time he was ostracized because it's like, hey, this is mambo jumbo voodoo.
Because that's
shaman.
what they
It's like-
taught back then.
But he was actually, and then the academia, of course, put him in a box and created categories. And then the job of a psychotherapist became, oh, this is the box, the label, and we put you here. That's how we cure you. It's like it's not about curing
You know what
somebody.
the idea of curing you
It's-
was? Of putting electrodes to your brain and frying you.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. So but in that sense, I think that again, the fact, for example, that here in the West we rely so much on chemicals, right?
Yeah.
While in the Eastern disciplines is more about
Mind,
your
body,
own
spirit.
biometrics that you balance, your own energy.
Mind, body, spirit is what it is.
Exactly.
And
So-
instead of giving you toxic, listen, if those chemicals they give you for all these different ailments and stuff, that's designed to mask whatever you have. That's the first thing. When you're getting something that is herbal, okay, and it's from God, it's from nature,
Yeah.
it says that all the answers to every sickness there is,
Yes.
and even the ones they create, is in nature.
It's in nature.
Why? Why this? Why? Because people make billions on keeping you sick.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Yeah,
they're
the money
making
is
billions
in
on
the-
keeping you sick.
Yes.
And then you hear these people, they want to depopulate the world because there's not enough to go. That's bull.
Yeah.
That is absolute trash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in that sense, I mean, it's really it's definitely like it's a gradual process, but needs to be fed, needs to be nurtured. Right, this idea of having conventional knowledge, academic knowledge, but at the same time to be able to include these aspects that can. It's a more wholesome understanding of,
That's right.
and to come to your point, what we find out is that this is a truly a universal language. Like when we connect on that spiritual level, and you can call it with whatever name you want to
Right.
call it, but you know what it is. It's that when you
right.
collect at
Exactly.
that level, then all of a sudden you don't need to produce sound, you don't need to.
No.
Do any gesture.
You can
You are simply
project thought.
understanding,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like when the first time it happens, it's a shocking experience. Like, why I am doing this? How I'm doing it? Right, Rob?
Rob can relate.
correct? Like you don't even know, but it's happening. It's like this is so easy.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah,
find
so
out
easy,
that actually
'cause it's natural.
we have these
We've
again,
had that
layers that are
ability.
covers to something that we are naturally propense to do. That's the most amazing
When
thing.
you
Oh,
go, when you are educated,
Yes.
from the time you're small, that ability is deliberately
covered. Yes.
covered up,
Yes.
boxed up.
There's a
And,
cap on
yeah,
top.
that's
Top.
what they do.
Yes.
They, there's so many different things. They put fluoride and everything, and fluoride is known to stop the pineal, surround the pineal gland, and it can't help you with your
Yeah.
sixth sense.
Or lead
Yeah,
in every
lead in
like,
every
pipes
single
and stuff.
thing.
So,
I mean, just in this, just the food. Now that they're starting to weed out a lot of this garbage out of our food, and it
goodness.
would be a good thing for them to do that,
Thank
so our kids would grow up normally
yeah.
Yeah.
and not have 79 different vaccines they have to have.
Yeah.
But there should not be any vaccine that is mandated.
Yes.
None of them. Okay? And it's a parent's choice. Those kids belong to me. They belong to you. They belong to her and they belong to him and every other man and woman out there. And the Board of Education and any educational thing, any medical thing, does not have the right to tell you what to do.
Yep.
All right? God has the right to tell you what to do, not them.
Correct.
And even the animal kingdom, they're way ahead of us because they're already naturally connected
You see,
telepathically,
that's
etc.
right. This one thing that the guy was dying. He had stage 4 everywhere in his body. And he was talking to his veterinarian about his dog. And the guy says, you really should try this because it's helped a few people. I don't know what it was that he gave him, but it was some type of dog tranquilizer. Cured him of cancer.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
People have been done with that.
We have been so flim-flammed that it's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Yep.
And then you have to have empathy for the medical field? Yeah, okay. Okay.
It's a little bit harder in that case.
Just a
Well, but again, it's because to some extent, again, you can be empathic and understanding when there is an involuntary blindness, right? It's like they kept you blind, you couldn't see. I can understand.
It's funny, you just said
But once those covers come out and you
That's it.
still willingly you want to remain blind, then that's when it becomes a little bit problematic. I would say it's like, well, you
A
know
lot.
you could, but you are deciding
What?
to look away.
that. We only have 4 minutes left.
Oh.
I just heard Amazing Grace as he said that. I once was lost and now I'm found, was blind and now I say. And that was for you.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
What about you, Rob? What do you have to add before we're going to run out of time?
We got this many.
Okay, I would just say, it took me roughly 2 years of my life to put this together.
Yeah, it's an excellent
If you're
book.
looking at this program, you were probably meant to read it. It'll take a few hours of your time, but it'll be time well spent.
Yeah, excellent book.
All right, what do we got, Billy? We got 2 minutes. So let's wrap this up. Listen, this was a fun show.
Wasn't it?
It was a fun show and a good conversation. For those of you out there that feel you're empathic, get yourself involved with people who know about these things and help develop yourself, because that's your spiritual awakening. All right? When you can feel for others what you're supposed to feel. Empathy, love, forgiveness, all the good things that God wanted us to instill in others that are instilled in us. Okay? Because every blessing you give someone else, you receive the same blessing.
Yeah.
All right?
That is the truth. And since today is the summer solstice,
Oh, yeah.
right? This is a brand new beginning for everybody. Everybody. So if there's something that you've been wishing for and that you really would like to create in your life, I suggest very strongly
Put it out there?
Yes, well, you can put it out there mentally, or even this would be a great time at 10:47 p.m. tonight is the actual solstice, Eastern
So
Standard Time.
putting your intention at that time, Mary, just tell them about the intention real quick. We have a minute.
Okay. Well, even you could write it down and then maybe burn it in a safe container.
right.
And then you let that go, the smoke go up to the universe to create that for yourself, and you'll get many, many blessings.
That's holy smoke.
Yeah, it is holy smoke. It literally
Okay.
is. It
Yes.
goes
Well,
out to the
listen, I'd
universe
like to
and
thank,
blends there.
I'm sorry, Mike. I'd like to thank our guest,
Oh,
Robert.
yes.
Jeez, I did it again.
Joe.
Joseph and Robert. Okay.
Thank you
being
for
on
having
the
me.
show.
It's always
Thank
a
you,
pleasure.
Joyce.
Nice to meet you.
You both are invited to come back.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
and
you.
we will
Appreciate
definitely put it on the docket.
Yes, absolutely.
Enjoy it very
Very
much.
interesting gentlemen
All right.
that do beautiful work.
Okay, Mary, give them the very blessings.
Oh, okay. Why? We ready to end the show
Yes,
now?
we got less than a
Okay.
minute.
All right. Good night.
it up.
Happy solstice, everyone, and many, 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 many bright blessings to you all.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Music, maestro.